Hello everybody, it's Catherine from Jayne Catherine on Books, and I'm here just a bit of a chat about what I've been reading recently. And yeah, I've done pretty well. 2 4-stars and a 5-star in this little lot, so very pleased. So the first one, it may be one that I've not seen it around on BookTube or whatever. The Churchill Secret, KBO. And keep buggering on. Oh, am I allowed to say that? That's what it stands for, it says here. And this is about a period in 1953 when the Prime Minister of the UK, Winston Churchill, had his stroke, and it was all hush-hush at the time. Now, I'm aware of it through watching the Royals on The Crown, and that featured in, I think, probably series 1, the period where Winston Churchill was the Prime Minister. Obviously we'd come out of the Second World War, and he was lingering on a lot longer than some people wanted. They wanted Anthony Eden to take over, and the younger man. But it came at a point in 53 where Winston had this mild stroke, and also Anthony Eden was taken ill with, I think it was gallstones or something along those lines. And in those days, it was quite major surgery for that. And he had to go over to America to have quite major surgery with, one of the pioneering surgeons of its day. And so in a way we hadn't really got anybody fully well enough to be running the country. But obviously that would frighten people if that hadn't have got out. If that had have got out, and obviously the Queen was aware because she has to know everything. I mean, when you think about it, our Queen, she's in her 90s now. I think she's 95 this year. How many prime ministers she's seen come and go in her reign? I wonder what she thinks of them all. We start 1953. We've got such as Winston Churchill, and then 2021 we've got Boris. Yeah, so she's seen a lot, hasn't she? This is a very good book. I gave it 4 stars. This really is. It's not a memoir, but it's taken from the memoirs of 2 critical people that were around Winston and Anthony Eden in those times. So we've got, trying to think of his name. I'll just have a look, because his advisor at the time was... Right, okay, yeah. So Sir John Colville was one of his advisors, and his medical advisor was Lord Moran. And after the death of Churchill, both of them, they printed their memoirs, they published the memoirs, and the authors very cleverly used most of the factual information from these memoirs. Now, I do believe that Churchill's family weren't very happy that this had happened, because they were supposed to be, quite private. So John Colville was his private secretary. He was the Dominic Cummings of the day. I'll say no more on that. So yeah, highly recommend this. Very interesting, especially if you're interested in British history, and especially if you're interested in Winston Churchill. I find him a fascinating character. Next, look at this beastie of a book. This is The Light Years. This is the first book of the Cazalet Chronicles by Elizabeth Jane Howard. Now, I saw this one in this series was recommended by Miranda Mills, and she recommends some really interesting books. If you don't know Miranda, go and check out her channel. She's got many books that she recommends from the interwar years. I love her channel. I love Miranda, and I love her mother, Donna, her mum Donna, who does a bit of cooking and talking about books with her. And you can see that her mum had a big influence on her growing up as a child, and her, love of reading. So I'd not heard of this until I saw Miranda mention it, and I happened to get, it's like a boxed set. I think there's 5 chronicles altogether, or there's 6, and this set had only got 5 in. It's something I've got to get the last one, but I'm only on book 1 at the moment, and I'm just looking how many pages, because it takes a while. 577 pages. I think some of that though is the next book on. So if we want to be pedantic about it, 553 for this book. Now, this is a family drama, and it's looking at a period of time about 1937 to 1939. So it's interwar years. The impact of the First World War has affected this family in many ways. We've got the elderly, the patriarch and matriarch of this Cazalet family, and they've got like nicknames, the Duchy, and she's like the female figure in all this. I'm just trying to get my family tree, and they call him the Brig. So they're like their pet names. They're really Kitty Barlow and William Cazalet, and they've got 2 sons and a daughter. No, sorry, 3 sons and a daughter. The daughter Rachel is in her 30s, and she has got a very lovely friend who is a female, and because of situation in the day where unmarried women were expected to look after the parents and look after the other siblings, that sort of thing, it was very difficult for them to then get into any sort of meaningful relationship, either heterosexually or for those that were gay. And so that you are given a good insight into that, and I found it quite sad really that women of that era, generally speaking, it's very much about women of the era, how they were treated, how they were expected to get themselves a rich husband or stop at home and be an home maid and look after the parents. They didn't want them to have careers, and it's very evident that this was still happening. Interwar years, we hadn't really seen much improvement in the aspirations, women meeting their aspirations and their dreams. And I did like the fact that this did, it has got this GBLTQIA plus representation in a book that was written so many years ago. So I enjoyed that. Hugh, Edward and Rupert are the 3 sons, all very different characters, and the 2 eldest, Edward and Hugh, are very much suffering from the effects of fighting in the First World War. Can't talk today. First World War, and Rupert being the youngest, not so much so, but there's this overall feeling as well, especially as we get towards the end of 38, overall feeling that there's going to be another world war, and what preparations should they make for it. The characters are fantastic. I do like all of the characters in here. The children as well, especially of all the 3 sons. Their children feature very heavily in here. It's split into a couple of parts, and when we get to part 2, there's something a little bit disturbing happens that I didn't like really. I wasn't expecting it, and it was never touched on again. So I'd be very interested to see if that theme is going to rear its head in later books in the series. I didn't like it really. It's as if it came out of the blue. And if it's not featured in the series moving forward, then why was it put in? So we'll see. You can tell very much that you can't say it was an unsatisfactory ending, but you can tell that there's more to come and that there's going to be more in this series. So I do highly recommend it. I gave it 4 stars. Very interesting. You've got to be in the mood, haven't you, for a long book. Not too much plot going on. There's bits of plots going on with each of the with the 3 sons, and also with Rachel and her lesbian relationship, or not, as the case may be. But mainly it's character driven and a real insight into the country, the UK at that time. And then finally, I'm late to this party, but I'm so glad I've joined. The Girl with the Louding Voice by Abby Dare. Oh, goodness me. This is one of those books that never leaves you. It's one of those books that you read and it's so thought-provoking that it never leaves you really. You do end up thinking about it. It does make you think about the wider world, the wider society, how marginalised groups are treated. And if you've been here a while, I'm very much for the underdog. I'm very much interested in books that do feature marginalised people, and especially as well as we are in Pride Month for June. So obviously the GBLTQIA plus community have always been, in the past very much marginalised, and in some parts of the world still are. I love anything to do with refugees, and this is looking at, it's a real slice of life look at Nigeria. And the thing that hit me the most about this is not Nigeria going way back. This is still happening today. This is still how girls and women are treated, and it's still very much a problem, I think. This is so well written. It's a bit like Own Voices, because Abby Dare did grow up in Nigeria, and she's had first hand experience of things like this happening in a lifetime. And also I was very taken with the inspiration that she put in, when they do all the thanks and everything. And it says, "To my mother, Professor Teju Somarin, not just because you are smart and beautiful and became the first female professor of taxation in Nigeria in 2019, but also because you made me see the importance of education and sacrifice so much for me to get the best of it." And that sort of, it touches you here, because I think the thing that struck me the most is that those of us that get free education, those of us in the UK, we're very fortunate up until university age, education is free. We take it for granted. We take it for granted that it's free to girls and boys, and other countries still don't have that. Right. So this is the story of a Dooney. She's a lovely character. She's 14 years old. She's very smart. She has got a very wise way of looking at the world. She's quite funny. She's got this, a good sense of humour. She's funny. And she's very kind-hearted. And she her mum dies, and which affects the family greatly. And her father goes into this Great Depression and doesn't work as much, and the family's struggling, and he's struggling to feed the younger children. And so really, to get the family back on its feet and to be able to look after the youngsters, he decides he's going to sell a Dooney to an older chap, middle-aged man in the next village, who is like the big businessman of the next village because he owns a taxi. And basically sells her to this taxi driver so he can marry her, and he gets the money to be able to then live, because they're struggling. And as a 14-year-old girl who has had some schooling, her mum was very strict that she went and had some schooling, and she was able to until her mum died, wants to carry on with her education, wants to make something of her life. But it's as if this is not meant to be, because at the age of 14 she's carted off to this next village. This taxi driver's already got some wives already, some older wives, and so it starts off with what's happening in that household, how really a Dooney is treated. I mean, at the end of the day, it's rape, really. And she runs away. And it's her life from then on. She is sort of sold into slavery. She is beaten. She's very mistreated. The woman that has her cleaning and looking after her is quite a wealthy businesswoman. She's got a lech of a husband who... you scratch my back and I'll scratch yours, or something else he wants her to scratch, or something, you know what I mean? Not nice. And she befriends another lady that's quite well off, that's a very well educated lady, and her husband's a doctor, and it's her Dooney strive to better herself, to be able to get a scholarship, to be able to continue her education. And it's absolutely thought-provoking, it's beautifully written. You will love a Dooney. She's one of those characters that you take to her heart. You want to go, I wanted to get my books out and go and teach her myself. So that's the sign of a good book for me, that you're so emotionally involved in it all that it feels real. And the upsetting thing for me is it is real. It is happening in the world. It is happening where girls can't access education, and that's not just in Nigeria. And girls are being sold underage, they are entering underage marriages against the will. They are being beaten. They are being sold into slavery. And that voice, those voices need to be heard. And I think that Abby Dare has done an excellent job. It's very well written. It's not just factual, like as if it's a non-fiction telling you about what happens. It is a very good novel, very well written piece of fiction, and I just loved it. I think everybody should read it. And yes, I give it 5 stars, but ever so often we get a book that really would like to give it 5+ stars, and this is one of them. And I think it just overall leaves me thinking, thank you so much that I was able, as a female in the UK, born in the 60s, was able to access free education, which meant that I could, do what I want in life. So, yeah, don't know what else to say about it apart from read it. It's excellent. So they're the 3 I've read. Just quickly what I'm reading at the moment. I've started this. Now, Charlie Higson has done a set of books on young James Bond. And now I love Montalbano. And by Camilleri. See, I told you I haven't got my teeth in. Andrea Camilleri. And also on the series on the television, there is a young Montalbano. And the same now that we've got Sophie Hannah taking over from doing the the Poirot and the Agatha Christie stuff. And this is that of that ilk. So it's Charlie Hickson assuming what James Bond would be like as a young man. I haven't read all that much. So far the character of a young James Bond is far removed from this suave, sophisticated hunk of a man that we know in 007 and all the James Bond movies. But see, it's early days, you know, I'll see how I feel about it. But yeah, it is a YA series, but I was just interested to see what he makes of it. And then I picked this up, which I did a TBR a while ago and didn't get round to it. It's called Turtle Diary by Russell Hoban. Sorry, not Holborn, Hoban. I'm really enjoying this. It's not non-fiction. I thought it was, but it isn't. And it's about two characters, basically very lonely characters, that because they're so lonely, they keep going to London Zoo as a little trip to, you know, for some company and somewhere to go. And both of them are very disturbed about how turtles are kept there in captivity, and I'm not that far in. It's literary fiction. You've got to be in the right frame of mind of it, because I think you've got to concentrate a bit, but the characterizations are excellent. Yeah, I think it's going to be a good one. So that's the Turtle Diary, Russell Hoban. Okay, so that's it for now. That's me done. That's a bit of a wrap up of the books I've been reading. And yeah, I'm getting on quite well with reading again now. I seem to be getting back into my swing, so I'm pleased about that. So thank you very much for joining me. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you're new here, you know, there's a lovely community amongst all the booktubers, and I've got a very wide range of genre that I read. So I'm not just reading brand new titles that come out or a certain genre. I do like quite a mix. So if that's the sort of thing you're looking for, then yeah, please come along and join us. So see you next video. Bye for now.